Casiotone CT-S1000V. Bonus content is a quirky, behind-the-scenes look, bizarre, so many cameras but you can basically not see any of them, unusual, and I had to have it close otherwise it looked rubbish. Off-the-wall keyboard, I will show you what I see, unmistakably evokes the spirit of those retro Casio tones. We then have camera number 2, and bizarre Casios from decades ago. And if you look to the upper right of me, the vocal synthesis feature is fun and unique, and that is this one, that some of the S1000V's features are implemented better than others. This is the view that I see, and it does also have a number of limitations. It's actually a bit of a game changer for me because this is actually a teleprompter. It's not for everyone though. Go around here, it's actually hidden under these sheets. These are sheets I bought from a thrift store, and I am so glad that Casio have dared to release such a model. That is how I did it. Well, after this interesting and somewhat lengthy journey, where we have been exploring all the features of this Casiotone S1000V, it's time for me to summarize my thought and give you my overall conclusion. Let me just put it down, a bit awkward to hold. The S1000V is a quirky, bizarre, unusual, and off-the-wall keyboard that unmistakably evokes the spirit of those retro Casio tones and bizarre Casios from decades ago. It is packed full of great sound and many useful features, plus it should be pointed out that though it is not a synthesizer in terms of creating sounds from scratch via a specific type of synthesis, by using its many powerful DSPs, the layering of its wide range of excellent and high-quality preset AIX tones, along with the captured and imported samples, and by using the tone shaping tools and parameters available, the potential sonic territory that can be covered is immense. You can easily get away with this as your only sound source in a DAW-based studio, or as a general all-purpose keyboard, as it can cover most of the common instrument tones and general sound that you'd likely ever need. Unless you require more distinctive and specific type of sound synthesis and/or deeper synthesis tone editing features. And for sure, the vocal synthesis feature is fun and unique, but might only offer limited usefulness depending on what type of music you wish to make. If you really don't need the vocal synthesis feature, you can buy the otherwise identical CT-S500 and save yourself some money. It is certainly apparent that some of the S1000 features are implemented better than others, and it does also have a number of limitations, idiosyncrasies, and unconventional ways of carrying out certain functions that may confuse those familiar with more conventional keyboards. Also bear in mind that it's the flagship of the Casiotone product line, and therefore it should be regarded as a supercharged preset home keyboard that can stray into more professional territory, rather than a very affordable professional synthesizer type of keyboard that has some home keyboard features. This is likely why it doesn't have 5-pin MIDI, for example, a feature missing on other manufacturers' recent entry-level and intermediate products too. Looking at you, Yamaha. Though that's a shame, as 5-pin MIDI would have opened up its usefulness for those that choose to work with doorless and standalone setups. Saying that, as I'm studio and computer-based and nearly always multi-track record these days, in my case I don't have an issue with USB MIDI, and find that it is simply plug and play in my studio. Oh, and very thankfully Casio have finally brought back MIDI clock sync, a function that's been missing from a number of their more recent keyboards that greatly increases the S1000V's usefulness in a studio or multi-system setup. However, on the subject of MIDI, the way that some aspects of it have been implemented is certainly one of the S1000V's weak points. Though the specifications suggest 48 parts of multi-timbrer, these are arranged in 3 banks, with individual channels being rigidly specific as to what type of sounds you can transmit or receive from them. Plus, an issue I had that might be DAW specific, though I had read online of someone else encountering the same issue, was that for some reason the MIDI CC parameter 0 wasn't being recorded. So when the recorded MIDI was sent back to the S1000V, the correct tone wasn't selected. Saying that, when I used the Reaper DAW, that worked fine and recorded all MIDI CC parameters, so maybe it is a DAW specific issue. But I feel it's important for people to be aware of this, just in case they encounter a similar situation. I was also both surprised and disappointed that one of the Casiotone key features, the powerful sound sculpting active DSPs, cannot be used when sending MIDI to the keyboard. Many times I would be experimenting with DSPs on the keyboard itself and created an excellent sound that I could save as a registration, only to find that there was no way of playing it via MIDI. As I said in the MIDI connectivity episode, if you only play from the keyboard itself and just record the live audio, this won't be a problem. But for electronic musicians who work, compose, and arrange extensively with computer-based MIDI sequencers, especially in the realms of EDM and synthpop, it is quite a serious omission. This MIDI disconnect also applies to the recording feature. Again, it has its uses, but it is very limited because of no onboard editing or arranging functions. Plus, if you try and export or import MIDI files recorded by the S1000V, in the case of the drums, they don't play back with the correct drum sounds. Nor can you export both the system and solo tracks of a multi-track recording in a single MIDI file. It comes across as not being fully thought out and renders the using of MIDI files created by the S1000V somewhat frustrating. This is even more strange because if you save in Casio's proprietary file format, these save and load all sounds perfectly. But being proprietary, you cannot use or edit these files anywhere else. Please, Casio, if you are going to force users to work with proprietary file formats, at least give them an app or data editor where these files can be edited and also converted in full to conventional formats. As I've also mentioned previously, I would rather forego the limited multi-track recorder and have more comprehensive MIDI compatibility and handling instead. Let's look at the pros and cons of the S1000V, at least in my opinion and from my experience. Excellent selection of high-quality tones, and the advanced tones offer added expressiveness. A powerful and large selection of active DSPs. Even though they're in preset blockchains, just about every combination is covered, and they're very flexible and programmable, and they sound really good. The vocal synthesis feature is unique, fun to use, and really makes the S1000V stand out in this class of keyboards. There's a wide selection of very good drum kits and drum sounds. Everything from contemporary to classic, and also ethnic kits are available. A good number of arpeggiator presets. These are great for both melodies and for bass lines. The arpeggiator is also very flexible in use in terms of how you can trigger it in real time. Assignable controls that are good for user customizing the interface to the user's own preferences, as well as for real-time control of the parameters. A clear and bright display that's easy to read, not too big and not too small, with adjustable contrast. It has some powerful speakers, considering their size. Compact overall size and lightweight, making it very portable. It has a nice feeling keyboard, synth style in action with textured keys and selectable velocity response. Good selection of connections, including many full-size quarter-inch jack sockets to connect to external audio equipment. It is inspiring to use. I found it really helped spark creativity and new ideas, and it also encouraged a different approach to making music. Now let's look at the cons. MIDI limitations when playing the S1000V from a DAW, and also when saving and loading recordings in the MIDI file format, such as drums not playing back with the correct sounds, for example, and you can't export a multi-track recording to a MIDI file in one go. Lack of onboard editing for MIDI recordings. There's no quantizing, erasing, or adding of notes, no arranging, and no copy or pasting, except for an entire track. You can't use the active DSPs via MIDI, such as when using a controller keyboard, sequencer, or DAW. Fixed drum rhythms. You can't custom program your own, though you can import Casio format rhythm files created by other models, but not the S1000V. Vocal synthesis programming can only be programmed via a mobile app. There's no computer app available. The use of proprietary file formats when not saving in .mid, and also when saving audio sampled by the Casio. It's odd that it can load in WAV file samples via a USB flash drive, but it can't save samples as WAV files, and you cannot use or edit these proprietary files anywhere else except with another Casio. A sometimes convoluted user interface that can be confusing when accessing some of the additional tone shaping options. For instance, you have to assign some parameters to an assignable knob before you can change its value. Limited sampler features. No sample editing available, i.e. crossfading, loop points, reversing, etc. Which is strange, as a vintage 1980s SK series sampler has more sampling features than a brand new 2022 Casiotone. And as mentioned with regards to proprietary files, if you use the S1000V to sample audio, it can only save this sample in a proprietary format. There's only a single USB-A socket, and that means you can't use the Bluetooth dongle and the flash drive simultaneously. And you can't name registrations. You have to remember the bank and slot numbers of your saved registrations and what's in them. Very frustrating if you have numerous custom registrations. Overall, despite some limitations and weaknesses, flaws even, and a couple of features that could have been implemented better, I do feel that Casio have knocked it out of the park with the S1000V. You get a stylish, capable, and value-for-money keyboard that blurs the line between home and lower-end professional keyboards, with likely only Yamaha offering anything that could rival it in terms of features at this price point. It's not for everyone though, so do check out its features, functions, capabilities, and limitations first to make sure it fits your needs. Most of all, the S1000V is a quirky, fun, and inspiring keyboard to use, and I am so glad that Casio have dared to release such a model. It's what they were so good at all those years ago, and I hope it will be the start of Casio getting even more creative, throwing caution to the wind and bringing us even more OMG, what the keyboards like this. Keyboards that take a different thinking outside the box approach to making music, and that make us smile as much as they inspire. And that's it for this video series. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe buttons, and remember, keep it Casiotone. Bonus content, behind the scenes look at how I put this video together, because when I was originally working out how to do this video, this whole series with the S1000V, I tried a few different ideas and then I run it by a few people to get some opinions. And the setup which you've obviously been watching, if you've watched this far rather, and if you watch some of these videos and you see how I've used multiple cameras and different camera angles and shots, the question I got was, how did you do that? What's the setup? And how come you've got so many cameras, but you can basically not see any of them, apart from this one, because it's not got a very good zoom and I had to have it close, otherwise it looked rubbish. But anyway, I thought I'd give you a little behind-the-scenes look at how I did this, and also we'll come to it shortly. I will show you what I see when I'm putting these videos together. So first of all, as far as cameras are concerned, there's 3 cameras in use. And camera number 1 is the one I'm talking to right now, which is actually a cell phone. But regardless, that's the one I talk to if I want to talk to the audience. I want to see you interacting with the whole keyboard. A long shot, you can see some stuff behind the scenes. We then have camera number 2, which is this one. And this is the one I use if I'm playing the keyboard and I just want to make it look a bit more arty and so on. Then we have camera number 3, which is this one. And that one is more for this close-up of the user interface. So when I really want to show people how I'm interacting with the controls in a lot of detail and using the buttons and so on and the control knobs, then that's the one I would use. But I also use exactly the same shot, and I'll be flicked to the main camera again. And if you look to the upper right of me, that's exactly the same shot that we just seen in the full screen, but I've now shrunk it down. And I use that one sometimes if I actually want to play things. And but I also want to show that I'm interacting with the controls as well. So if I want to do these cut-off and resonance and maybe even trigger some of the drums or so on, then you can still see that as well. And then there's a final shot or third shot that comes from this upper camera, and that is this one. And this is just simply a zoom in of the screen, and it's cropped so you only really see the screen. And that's because it gives a lot of detail, and it saves me having to make titles as well. Plus, sometimes there's a lot of information that appears with that, especially if you're interacting or adjusting a control or something. So that's really, really handy to have. So I have 3 cameras, but actually 5 different shots I can use from them. And I can show them to you. And I also come into the audio. So this is the view that I see. So I'm now looking at the camera that was looking at me. So if I go to camera 1, that's what you're looking at. And my camera, this is what I'm looking at. Then if I go to camera number 2, which is this one here, and I can actually put it in front of it, I'm now looking at camera number 2. And camera number 2 is maybe looking at me or the camera or something. And then we have camera number 3, which is hovering overhead on a stand. I can put myself on, see if I can get underneath that and have a look. I think I'm looking at it. And that's camera number 3, the overhead. Oh, I can actually just use the actual screen of it. So that's very handy. And obviously I can monitor what I'm doing on this screen too. You can also see there's lots and lots and lots and lots of light and everything. There's the 2 softboxes and there's 4 spotlights as well, just to make sure I got plenty of light. And then in the background, I should show you as well, there's a laptop on a stand, as you can see. Now, this is actually a bit of a game changer for me because this is actually a teleprompter. And I put my entire script and everything that needs to happen. Let me see if I can make the script. Let me zoom in a bit. And so I can read off that when I need to recite sort of pre-written text, then I can use that. Plus you see there, it says take out a dongle, any cues, any points or main points I need to cover or something I need to do, then I use that. And I also show you with the audio, obviously the audio is coming out of the back of the Casio there. And then if I go around here, it's actually hidden under these sheets. These are sheets I bought from a thrift store. And they come over here. But they also join up, as you see, with my lavalier microphone. That's wired. And then my headphone wire as well. That's all there. These all go down on the floor, go up there. Then they come across here into my sound interface, audio interface, which then goes across into the computer. And then that's my DAW recording the 2 tracks behind me. If I hit the S1000V, yeah, you see that it's recording all that. And that is how I did it. It looks really messy from this side. Let me do a little pan around. So we've got camera, lights, camera, more lights, another camera, stand, teleprompter, and more lights, and a whole bunch of wires all going up over there. That's how I put it together. And everything else is done via editing. So I had to take all these tracks, export them all into my computer behind me, put them into multiple tracks, and then it's a ton of editing. But it's very rewarding. But anyway, hopefully you found that informative and enjoyed the bonus content and had a look at what I'm looking at when I'm putting these videos together, which is a very different angle to what most people normally look at the videos I actually put up. So thank you for watching.